The key question to ask is not, is Claude doing the work right? It is Claude doing the right work? It's having a massive impact because you can't really have a conversation with anyone for any length of time without AI becoming part of the conversation. Now we're essentially using a chainsaw, right? It is a lot bloody better, but used incorrectly, you're going to chop off your leg. Anyone that's not using it, they need coaching. Or if they're not going to do it, they're not going to be staying at the company that long. And then he said he was making like 12 grand a month now, just with all these caravans on his plot. That was not being used before.
Wow. VP of AI, I love that. That's incredible. Work is changing. That's not a prediction anymore. It's just Tuesday. And the leaders doing it well aren't the ones with all the answers. They're the ones asking better questions. I'm Dave Kenyon, and this is Evolving Workforce. Today we're talking about something every leader is grappling with right now. Not just what AI can do, but how it's changing who makes decisions inside organisations. My guest is Adam Cogan, founder of SSW, a software development and AI firm that has been building enterprise solutions for over 30 years and is now at the frontier of AI-driven development. Adam is one of Australia's most recognised voices in AI in practice, not just theory and real-world application. Adam, great to have you on Evolving Workforce.
Thank you, Dave. Thanks. It's been quite a journey for the last few years.
Yep.
My role has changed significantly. I spent 30 years just kind of running software teams, and now I'm trying to run software teams that are massively powered by AI.
Big shift, isn't it?
It is.
What have you observed in terms of what's actually changing from just coding yourself to using AI to code, and how is that changing how you relate to your people as well?
Well, the way the sausage is made is different, but the core parts of having a conversation with a client, trying to work out what they need, a lot of the communication basics remain.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And when you have a look at workforce, specifically in terms of AI, how is that having an impact?
Well, it's having a massive impact because you can't really have a conversation with anyone for any length of time without AI becoming part of the conversation. And I think, look, broadly, most people that aren't following it and they're not using it, but they vaguely know, they either think it's friggin' scary and it's so terrible and it can do everything under the sun, or they just don't think it can, they just don't know what it can do. So the only way of really fixing this is getting it in the hands of people and all the employees in the company so that the people that, their expectations are set in reality. It's not it can do everything, and it's not that they can't work out what it can do for them.
So adding to that, so where is AI genuinely adding value and where is it just hype?
Well, it is adding value everywhere in almost all organisations I see because it's changing everyone's job. The obvious hype is the video production and the images, that style. It's useful, semi-useful, but it's not as good as the step up that you get from like coding tasks, reconciliation tasks, things to do with spreadsheets, document generation if it's done well. Unfortunately, it's all the amount of AI slop that you see is definitely making the problem worse. It's better to be genuine. And like one of the first things I do when I go in a company when we're trying to train everyone to use the latest tools is kind of focus on, we're not going to have AI slop here. We're not going to have the situation where you say, use AI. I've got these three bullet points, flesh it out and send that. And then the person on the receiving end receives that and say, summarize this. Like that's the ridiculous bad end of AI. When you're getting into using Claude skills, then you start really adding value. When you're using Claude code, which to be clear is not just for coders, it's for anyone. You can say, give me a web page that summarizes the call stats. You know, I actually just got one last week. I was using Excel, and our system administrators had been collecting a bunch of logs, and there was some stuff to do with Microsoft partnerships, and they'd been making a lot of calls and summarizing all the different clients and their usage, and it was, you know, they're not software developers, they're system administrators. They look at logs all the time. They sent me a spreadsheet with a bunch of tabs, and I knew I was meant to understand this, so I used Claude, the Claude Excel add-in, and I said, can you please add a graph and summarize this and help me understand what this is all about? Very vague prompt. And it did me a beautiful graph. And I go, oh, that's good. And then I just said, can you move this graph to a brand new slide sheet on the first, as the first sheet? And then it did that. And I said, can you put in SSW colors? It did it all. Just a few prompts. And I fixed up their spreadsheet. I had a good understanding. And then they came into the meeting and I added that. I looked pretty smart.
Yes, absolutely. That's incredible. Now, for those that don't know, do you want to just explain a little bit more what Claude skills and Claude code is?
Right. So when you're an organization, you need to pick a bit of a horse. Now, ChatGPT from OpenAI is the big guy. It had the head start. Anthropic, they have the Claude products, and there's a whole bunch. Google have their Gemini, and then we have some Chinese models. Okay, there's Qwen, DeepSeek, and there's Kimi K2. There is a lot of different models out there. They're all good at different things, but the one that's really like the gold standard at the moment is the stuff coming out of Anthropic. So Claude is your friend. And when you get into Claude, I guess a lot of people will say, I'm using Claude. But what they mean is they've installed the app on their phone, or they mean they're using the chat generation. So tell me about the 10 biggest cities in Australia, right? But when you get further on, you will start using some other tools that they have. And they have a bunch of tools. And one of the most useful things when you're just a knowledge worker in a company is Claude Skills and Claude Code. Claude Skills will allow you to essentially any job that you do that's repeatable, you can use a Claude skill. So I'll give you an example. When we do software development, we have a dozen teams doing software development. Teams of could be five to 8 people or something. They have a meeting every week or every 2 weeks. We call that a sprint review. And for that meeting, I have always encouraged teams to put the backlog, what they got done, and some metrics like what's how much uptime do we have, what's the performance, what unhandled errors have been logged, and also a retrospective about what went well this sprint and what didn't. Like teamwork is incredibly important for software developers. And we've added a new one into that which is AI use, so that they share what AI tools they're using and where it was useful for them, where it wasn't. So they talk about that. But generating that email takes a bit of time. To get all the different graphs and stuff, that can take, 15 minutes. Could be half an hour, I guess. You, instead of going to your sent items and copying last week's and using that as your template, you can make a Claude skill that automatically just creates it. So it's done and you're good to go.
That's amazing. I've experimented with GPTs, and a similar sort of thing, but in Claude it's called skills. My next task is to put it all together. So, create a post in the tone of me, a little bit quirky, and then the next one is image generation. But the idea is to put all the steps together to have like a whole marketing team underneath me. But one thing, when you were talking about AI slop, you're not just talking about LinkedIn posts, are you? You're talking about intercommunications between staff members. You're talking about it even in code, perhaps?
I think AI slop generally refers to when people feel that they've received something that is inauthentic, right? I was talking to one of my mates from uni who's not into using software stuff, and he was asking me to read this message from a work associate, and he was quite offended by it, and he was confused. And I looked at it, and it was instantly recognizable as it came out of ChatGPT. But he couldn't tell, is this passive aggressive? Why has it got all this stuff in it? Like, what does it mean? And the cadence of it, the rule of threes, and the flowery language and emojis. A lot of people wouldn't naturally do that. And when I said instantly, they've used an AI tool to generate this, his confusion was, does that mean he's pissed off? He's doing that? For a normal person that receives a non-genuine message about a topic, it feels bad. When you receive an email complimenting you, but it's not real words, that's a problem. And one of the things I often tell people, draft up your email. That's your genuine email. You shouldn't send it without using AI, but don't put it into AI and say, please reword this to be friendly. Don't do that, because it puts crap in there. Instead say, please review this and give me changes numbered in the form of change X to Y. And then you can look at the first one. It says change it from Davo to David. Ignore that. Change this. Ignore that. This one, I was a little unclear. I'll clear that up. Only take the little bits that are useful, and then you don't have AI slop.
Yeah. It's so easy to have big, flowery language, long, convoluted sentences that is just not genuine at all. And as well, I find it very long-winded. It can be at times as well.
Yeah, and it's not succinct, and that's not helpful.
No. So in terms of how AI is changing organisations, how is it changing who makes the decision and when to put that human in the loop?
Humans, we still have a job, but we don't have the repetitive job. There is definitely a lot of busy work that you don't need to do. If you are going through doing a reconciliation, I just did that payroll conference that I met you at.
Yes.
A lot of their work is busy work, and a lot of it could be completely automated. But you need to be thinking about what jobs do you want done and making sure that AI is on the case to do that. So you've got to be doing the bigger picture thinking and knowing the things that you need AI solving. But it's certainly not going to solve a lot of people problems.
That's right. When we met at the Australian Payroll Association Summit, you actually blew my mind in a lot of the different applications that are out there, and you've done it today again in talking about those Chinese AI applications that I'd never heard of. And one of the things that you were talking about is where organisations consistently are getting wrong when it comes to AI. And I think you also were the one that told me about Open Claw, which looked dangerous and exciting.
Yeah, well, didn't that take off? I think that was the first week or so after it had been announced.
Yes.
And OpenClaw went crazy, and everybody wanted to use it. Everybody was going off getting a Mac Mini because you don't want to give it. I was a bit frightened of mentioning it at that conference because you're in a position of authority. You tell someone this tool is incredible and everyone's doing it. It's done by just an individual dude from Austria who whipped it together. And for those that don't know what OpenClaw is, this guy from Austria, Peter Steinberger, he basically cobbled together a bunch of existing tools. He didn't create anything himself. He just wired it all together, gave it permissions for his machine. Now, of course, because it potentially could do anything, you need to not give it all permissions, right? Because it could work out somehow your bank account. It could work stuff out. So he gets a different machine, a Mac Mini in his case, makes a different user, which is completely locked down, and goes, go for it. And then he just starts asking it questions all the time. So he would just ask it different questions. Hey, can you look in my inbox and forward me the last valuation I got for the house? It's in a PDF from some person probably a year or two ago. And then it would find it and forward it to you. Now, he went to Morocco for a weekend, and he decides to message it and says, give me the top 10 restaurants, meat restaurants in Morocco or something. And as he did it, he realized, I just voiced that because I voice things to my friends and I forgot this wasn't a person, so I need to type it. And while I'm thinking through that, I start seeing ... It's replying somehow. And he's waiting, and he gets a response with the restaurants. And then he's kind of perplexed. What happened there? And then he said, can you tell me how you worked this out? And it replied back, well, you sent me an empty message, and there was a file, but it didn't have an extension. So I went into your hard drive. I looked for applications you might have that can look at the contents of a header. So I found that, and I ran it, and then I saw it was an audio file, so I converted it to an MP4, uploaded it to Whisper, and Whisper gave me the text back, and then I gave that to Google Maps and gave you the answer. And he goes, whew, wow, it can do anything. Then he started really pushing the envelope, then he released it, and then the rest of the world went crazy. And then after the payroll conference that we last spoke about this, everybody's produced some version of that. So you've got all the big guys have produced their own OpenClaw style. Some have produced a TinyClaw version, which is very small. And Anthropic have produced one that is in their suite. And then OpenAI gave him the job of a lifetime, and they're running theirs.
Well, that's so exciting. I remember at the time you did give us the due warning. He goes, don't put it on your machines. It's going to go through everything. So I was actually quite scared to use it. Would you be recommending we use something now, like we've got Claude at Ojai, where we are. Would you recommend using their version of this?
Yeah, I would. It's not the very first thing to do. Have you used Claude Code?
Not yet.
Okay, so that's your homework from here.
Right.
Go home and start using Claude Code.
Yep.
You can do a lot of stuff with that, and then you can start trying to work the way so that Claude can start doing bigger jobs for you. And then get on to giving it essentially remote control access, where you can ask at any time, any place, just from your phone, to get it to do tasks. So I do it, but do it in the right order. Get a bit more experience.
That's exciting. That's my homework, and I promise next time I see you, I will have done my homework. You can check, Adam. So I think you've probably just answered my question, but what does a practical approach actually look like today, particularly for leaders listening to this podcast, in terms of they've got thousands of people working for them, or hundreds, whatever it may be. Everybody's using different systems. How do they manage their teams? And maybe an example is, how have you managed it within your own organisation?
Well, I guess the first thing that I did was focus on getting AI in the hands of every single employee. All right, that's the first job. Then you want to get it so that they're using it in every part of their job. So it's not just the software developers. In our case, the TV guys are using it, the marketing people are using it, the accountants are using it. Anyone that's not using it, they need coaching. Or if they're not going to do it, they're not going to be staying at the company that long. So you've got to embrace it. That's number one. We put it in our induction system. So when you join SSW, you do Sugar Learning. Other companies have Moodle and lots of these different onboarding learning management platforms. And we would get it so that each part of it, they would use AI so it's known that we use it and it's transparent. I'll give you an example. When people would join the first couple of days, they would do what is called the Scrum Master course. So we would get them to answer some questions. Well, I think we had a dozen questions that you'd answer after you'd read the 16-page booklet. And that was just to check that they had a baseline of understanding, because every project we do, almost every project, is Scrum or SAFe or some methodology that's agile. Anyway, so we would, at the end of that, when the ones they got wrong, they had to speak to one of the Scrum Masters in the org. We have more than 50 of them. And they would then speak to them and say, look, I got this wrong, and I think I understand what I misunderstood, and I believe it's this. So we changed that. So now the ones you got wrong, you put that into AI, and we tell them the prompts so that they get their understanding. If they still don't understand it from that point, then speak to a real Scrum Master. It's the same thing. Don't get me to check your email to a client if you haven't already used AI, one of them, and said, look, I'm sending this to a client. The main issue I want solved is this. Please give me feedback, number the items in the form of change X to Y.
That's very practical. That sounds like, a really good way to induct people into SSW and how to use AI and embed it. And I really like that everyone really should be using.
The other thing that I typically recommend, and I've done it myself, is get a VP of AI. So somebody responsible that is the most inquisitive and keeping up to date. You need to have a person that others know to go to so that you are dragging the company up to a level baseline.
Wow. VP of AI, I love that. That's incredible. Well, Adam, can you join OHI and can you be our VP of AI, please?
Oh, yeah, I think you need someone full-time rather than a fractional VP. Okay. I think you need somebody who is, in your company. And of course, if they're even higher, you would have them as a C-suite.
Yeah.
So CAI,
CAI.
Yeah.
Chief of AI.
I think that you'll start seeing that. I haven't seen one yet, but I'm sure they exist.
Oh, absolutely. Now, Adam, I'd like to play a few games here with you at Evolving Workforce. Our first one is called Humans versus AI. So where do humans still matter, and what should organisations never hand over to AI?
Where do humans matter? In almost every part of the job. And I think AI should be assisting. So a case in point, conflict at work. I think it should be normalised that, if you and I are having conflict, we get it in and we record it, right? We record that conversation because we want an independent voice, right? Now, we might have a third person there, but if we record it, and sometimes I might be expressing my frustration with you in unhelpful manners. So at the end of the meeting, you ask AI, give me the top 10 points that came out of here and give us the top 10 pieces of feedback where the feedback or statements were unhelpful. And it does say it. And sometimes you're finding, you're thinking I said it wrong, but then it was the mediator that said something. And it's quite interesting because you're guessing who said what because it doesn't know who's speaking unless you're actually on a Teams call and you're recording that. But obviously, conflict is better addressed in person, with AI just helping.
I love that. I think it's fantastic. And it's transparency as well. It's like I'm not going to just sweep it under the carpet and put up with it for the next 3 years. It's like, let's have a chat about it now.
And it becomes more normalised as well.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good in terms of conflict management. That's brilliant. Our next game is Change Your Mind. So what's something you believed about AI 2 years ago that you no longer believe?
Well, I don't think I ever thought that we weren't going to get here, but the pace is definitely increasing. As soon as Anthropic told everyone they had Mythos. Now, Mythos was this announcement that we have just got the new model, okay? Because I don't know if you remember, but back in GPT 5.2 land, it was about to be almost AGI, and then 5.3, then 5.4, and then 5.5. That was definitely going to be AGI. But they were all just incrementally better and just eating more tokens. And then we got Mythos, but we didn't get it. We just got told this is so good we can't release it. Yeah, could have been the world's best marketing stunt, but it certainly got there. And of course, I start messaging all the people I know inside Microsoft that had their hands on it, and they're going, it's a real thing. It's really good, and it's finding bugs in very old versions of software. It is incredible. And then just yesterday, they released Fable. Okay, so this Fable 5 is essentially Mythos watered down. So apparently they've taken some of the dangerous, the too good stuff in there out, and now we have Fable 5, which is a massive capability jump, eating a ton more tokens. And this will be the next time we speak. You're going to be talking, how do we use AI when we can't afford all the tokens? That's going to be the next problem, because they're not allowing you to use this in the subscription plan. They're just saying it consumes a hell of a lot of gas, and anything you do is going to consume it all. So now we have to tone it down. And of course, companies have already had very bad experiences where they're saying everybody's got AI, use it as best you can. People put up on the fridge at work, leaderboards on who's using the most tokens, which obviously is getting us hooked on it, in a dependent-like manner, and then they're going to ramp up the price like nuts.
Yeah. It's just like social media advertising. It was sort of free at the start or almost free, and then, wow, did they ramp it up and less reach and all that sort of stuff. Let's just cover AGI for those who don't know what AGI is. You mentioned that. What is that, and are we there yet?
Well, AGI is whatever you want to define it as. Everybody has their own definition. I run with the definition of the best that any human can do in the top of their field. So AGI would be the top person in every single field, all added up.
Wow.
Okay, so any maths problem would be the top mathematician. Any coding problem with, say, React would be the best React developer. So it can do anything of what anyone wants. Are we there yet? We're close enough, if you ask me.
Wow. So for those that don't know, AGI stands for Artificial General Intelligence. They talked about the singularity many years ago, and that's where computing power gets to what a brain can compute. And what you're talking about there is pretty much it, isn't it? The singularity.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Look, these definitions are pretty fuzzy. We are as smart as we would have ever expected a computer to be, and it's guiding it in the right place. I do want to say that the best way I get all these business owners that run companies that aren't using the tech. That's the first problem. And when they aren't using it, they don't really know what it can do and how, whether it's just magic or whatever. But just imagine, up until now, we've been using a chisel all the time. And now we're essentially using a chainsaw, right? It is a lot bloody better, but used incorrectly, you're going to chop off your leg. So you have to be careful with this thing. You can do a lot more damage with this chainsaw than we could before, and that's the scary bit.
Yeah, absolutely. It sort of brings me to my next game. What's one prediction you'd make about AI and the workforce in the next 2 to 3 years? Where are we going to be at?
Well, we're going to be a lot better. Now, remember, this is, at the moment, a Western phenomenon. So there's a lot of the world. We have an office in China. Yeah. They are definitely, consider them as equal with us. They're doing a lot of crazy good stuff, more with robotics than we are. I think what you're going to see, and I should temper this because I just went and spoke. I just did a keynote at a conference with business leaders, and there was just an intimate group of 50 people who all own a company between 30 million and 100 million. So successful business owners around Australia. I assumed everybody had a team of software developers. And I remember the first question I asked to the roundtable essentially was, who here has a team more than 5 software developers? None. Who has more than 2? None. Who has 1 software developer full-time? No one. So all these companies, they're not tech companies, they're businesses. They sell refrigerations. They have big businesses, bigger businesses than I have, but they have no software developers. So even in Australia, a first world country, there is a lot of capability for them to improve. Okay, there was the most interesting thing was they were doing a lot of things themselves, and there was one story of one guy who said, "I was really suffering. I'm losing money. I have a very large plot of land for all my stuff, and it's near the airport. So I asked Claude for advice on what to do with this massive amount of land, what I could do." I think he stored, I think, refrigeration, solar stuff on this. And so he didn't use most of it. I think he said 50,000 squares or something. And he asked Claude, and Claude said, well, here's a list of things you could rent this space out for and earn some money. And he said, I can only choose a business where I can get rid of them with a month's notice, because when I get a big job, I need the space. And it said, what about caravans? Like, you can do caravans. And he goes, great. Can you do me a caravan website? It does it. Caravan hire website. Can you do me a social media platform? Can you do me a social media ad campaign for it? Does it. And he's not techie at all. And then he said he was making like 12 grand a month now, just with all these caravans on his plot that was not being used before. So that's just an idea how it can help you generate a business idea and put it into action without being technical.
That's amazing. That's incredible. There's so much to unpack there. I love those particular stories, and the fact that you went to this conference and none of them had developers, but they were all sort of just having a go themselves.
Having a go, winging it, not at a different level than I'm used to, because I'm usually dealing with software teams.
So these people were very much non-techie people.
Yeah, they are in a group where they help each other, all in different fields. And, now they want the keynote to be on AI because they know it's important. So that's how I got the gig.
Yeah. And so are you saying that you were sort of mentioning that there's a lot of leaders that are not dabbling, that are not using AI, that have stayed right away from it?
Yeah, especially when they're of a bigger organization and they're dealing with all the normal run-of-the-mill people problems, organization. They've got minions doing everything. They have a bad sense of reality of what it can do. They have to use the tools.
Yeah. All right, now let's go to the warning. We've done the prediction, now the warning. Where are you at with, or what would you say leaders need to look out for in terms of AI and how their workforce uses AI over the next 2 to 3 years?
Well, I would say don't move slowly, move fast. Learn as much as you can from the people using it in your organization, and make sure they're sharing. The tip I gave you before, like in each sprint review, share what AI tools that each member is using, and make sure they make a statement about what they did or tried. And I went from the 5X plan to the 20X plan, or I tried this one, but it didn't work. Different code bases, different problems are going to be dealing with this differently. And if you have software, make sure that you upgrade it so that it has an MCP engine so that you can integrate across the company.
MCP meaning?
It's an acronym that allows you to have another AI model talk to it. So it basically is integrating each other.
Ah, it's an interface. Okay. Nice one. Nice one. Now, what's something that we really should know before we sign off that leaders should be thinking about that we haven't covered yet in this podcast?
Well, I think get onto the latest. Give Fable a try, and be aware that it's not just making sure Claude doing the work right. It is Claude doing the right work.
Can you unpack that a little bit for us?
Well, because in the past you would give it certain tasks.
Yeah.
Now you need to give it a job and just monitor that it's doing the right major job. So you've got to step up a level than what you were doing before, because it's getting so smart, you can just trust it's going to work it out. You don't have to press continue after every single task. It will work that out. Focus on what you want the output to look like. I try to teach people, get in your head what in Scrum is called acceptance criteria. What is this going to look like when it's done? If you can't tell me that, then it's not even ready for AI.
So what's the outcome? We're looking for the outcome first and then work backwards.
That's right. So step up a level, work out, what is this going to look like? Is it going to be a spreadsheet? Is it going to be this? Is it going to be this UI? How am I going to use it? How do I want my employees to action this? Think about the picture rather than just the tasks.
Thank you so much, Adam. This has been an amazing chat. I've learnt a lot once again. You've blown my mind once again, and it'll be interesting to see where we're at in our next chat.
All right, look forward to it. Thanks, Dave.
Good on you. Thanks, Adam. Bye. Evolving Workforce was proudly brought to you by OHI, specialists in workforce management, award interpretation and payroll compliance, delivering new certainty. This podcast was recorded on the land of the Gadigal people. If you enjoyed this podcast, why not send to a friend or a colleague? And remember to hit follow on your podcast player to get every episode as they drop every Wednesday. Thanks for listening. I've been Dave Kenyon, and this is Evolving Workforce.